Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome to the show. This is Astrotheology. We are reading out of the book titled The Devil's Pulpit. Okay, this is a compilation of astrotheological sermons that were given by the Reverend Robert Taylor, BA. I guess that's a bachelor's degree, I'm assuming. This book is over 200 years old. These sermons were compiled into book form in 1857. He gave these sermons, I believe it was in the 1810s, 18 teens rather, 20s and 30s. All right. So with that said, I'm going to give it a minute. Let me check the live stream, see if it's working, and I'll be back. One moment. Let's see if the live stream is working. I'll be right with you. One moment. So how are y'all doing today? How was everybody's day? For some reason, my camera is not being recognized by this platform, so I'm unable to turn it on, in case you're wondering. But my microphone is on. Okay. So, all right. Him and Pale says shalom, shalom, prosperity to all Yisrael. Aziyah, shalawama. Let me pull up the document, y'all, and then we get started. All right. Let me pull up the PDF. So everyone, please remember, you can download The Devil's Pulpit by Dr. Robert Taylor. You can download it for free while it's still on the internet, right? So if you want to have this, this is a phenomenal book, whether you agree with it or not. It's a phenomenal book. And remember, you don't have to agree with everything, right? To appreciate an author's work and point of view, you don't have to agree with it. But his style is very interesting, and his approach. And the more I read this, the more I'm starting to think that this might be one of the more fundamental books on the topic, you know, because I've been looking at alternative stuff, and so far this seems better. Not alternative stuff, but other works by other authors. And this seems like a better case. The evidence is better, right? And he's using 3 different types of evidence, whereas the others I'm saying it's usually biblical, it's usually astronomy, right? Or a combination of the two. Okay. But what I like about this author is that he goes into the language, the etymology, and the church father writings. All right. And also the mythological stories. So that's what I like about him. So let me stop the share. Everybody subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. Do right by me if you can afford to. Do right by me and your family. And your family. Start working toward reclaiming your heritage. Okay, let me get the document up, y'all. Let me get the document up. And be sure to comment, put your comments in the comment section. So it really helps people when they come in the future. You know, those people who come who may not know as much as you do. What you say really can help them. All right, so let's get going. So yesterday we stopped on one. Let me check to make the live, make sure that we got sound. Give me 1 second, please. So I'm going to do a summary, but just a brief summary. Okay, let me check to just make sure we have sound first. One moment. All right, let's see. Do we have sound? Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check. All right. Do we have sound? Yeah, we're in business, y'all. We are in business. All right. So let's go. Yes, last time we stopped, we were on page 104. All right, we were on page 104. Oh, that banner at the bottom is blocking the view for y'all. Let me take that banner off. Be sure to put your questions, comments, and answers in the chat. Be liberal. Be very liberal. Okay. Be very liberal to help others. All right. To help others who do not know what you know. Okay. Don't be stingy with y'all's knowledge. All right. Don't be stingy. Okay. So here we go. So we're going to start on 104. So that checks out. We're on 104. All right. Yeah, we're on 104. Let me see. Let me increase the font for you all so it's more easy for y'all to read. Okay. Give me 1 second. Try to do this for you. Make it a little bit easier, bigger for you to read. Okay. Position the page. And then we should be good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. One moment, y'all. Let me get it set up. All right. So I think that looks good. Thanks for being patient, everyone. I appreciate that. So we need to do a review, right? Fortunately, there's really not a whole lot to review on this one because I did the same review of this twice. All right. Yesterday I read a little bit more than I read back. But anyway. So y'all, we dealing with the temple now, okay? We're dealing with the temple. We also dealt with the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar are associated with Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 4. Get that. The Knights Templar. Y'all know who the Knights Templar are, right? The secret society. Everybody knows their history. Okay, that's the Templars. Okay, the Knights Templars initially, when they started out, they were supposed to be students, scholars, devotees of righteousness, All right, but we see that when the priesthood was corrupted, they actually completely failed, and they began to use law as a way to enslave people physically and mentally. So in today's world, we see law. Well, actually, it's not even law, is it, right? We see maritime law or the administrative state across the world enslaving people due to their ignorance. It's the same process that they're using with law that's used in religion. Ignorance. Okay, ignorance. Because you, my friend, whether you have a PhD or not, most likely you don't know how to read. That's not an insult, but what it means is this: you were not taught etymology, you were not taught linguistics, and they let you slide or graduate without having a thorough understanding of grammar. Now, that's true for almost all of our people across the board. In other words, we are used to speaking and thinking that we understand the meaning of words, but those meanings are not the meanings that are in the dictionary, and they're definitely not the meanings that are in the etymological dictionary, right? So it's called connotative linguistics. So they're ruling us through connotative linguistics, okay? All right, so now keep it in mind, the Knights Templar, justice, right? Remember, equal justice, the vernal equinoxes, right? The vernal equinox and then the autumn equinox, representative of equal justice, 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of nighttime. That is righteousness and justice. Every year, it's always the same. So it's what? Every year at the equinoxes, it's always the same. Therefore, we say it's what? The scales are balanced, remember? In ancient Egypt, the scales are balanced. There's special effort. There are two administrators. There are two leaders. Astrologically, they are Gemini. Y'all remember from yesterday? These two twins, one of them is Pulak. Was it Pulak, y'all? All right. They're primarily concerned with the administration of justice at all costs. Why? Because every equinox, no matter how many thousands of years go by, it's always going to be the same. 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. All right. So that's where the concept, according to the author, of righteousness and justice comes from. All right. Or at least how we express it. Judgment between a man and his neighbor. Judgment between a man and his neighbor. Remember, we're talking about the study of law and equity. All right. The Templars, the Knights Templars, abandoned their duty when the priesthood went bad, or when those Templars went bad. Correlate this with your history learnings. All right. So keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. Make sure you study law, right? All Moors, everyone in the house of Yasharallah should study law. All right. We should be studying law. So there's law, law, and law, and law is everything. Okay. All right. Now that's in contradistinction to the administrative state, right? It's not law. It's not law. Okay, so now what else did we go through? We went through the lamb crossing the celestial equator, right? The lamb gets crucified when it crosses the celestial equator. So correlate that back to Christian teachings. And I think this is here's a major point I would like for everyone to keep in mind. Major point here. The lawyers, these Templars are in bed with the clergy. All of them are secret society members. They are in bed together. Okay, so keep that in mind before you go confessing your sins, your crimes, things that you've done that you wouldn't want anybody to know. Keep that in mind, that anciently, these lawyers and priests, or the clergy, that now remember, they're all clergy, right? They're all priests. Behind the scenes, they're all priests. They support each other, right? And they have been doing this throughout history. So everybody needs to be aware of this, all right? And remember also another major point, the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All right. So go back and read these pages, and you can get the full discussion of that if you would like to have that. All right. So now let's begin. Let's begin where we left off yesterday. So we're going to begin at the top of page 104. All right. And we're talking about the Apostle Paul and his conversion, and how Paul in the New Testament, according to the author, is King Saul in the Old Testament. And the conversion, Paul's loss of his sight, the whole story has astronomical meaning. Okay. So now let's get into it with our first paragraph. It reads, page 104, and this conversion, you will observe, that's Paul's conversion, takes place expressly at midday, that is, when the sun of Gemini is exactly at the meridian, 12 o'clock of the 9th of June. I think I read that already. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, we read that already. We're further along, way further along. All right, I think we're on page 108. Let me just check to make sure. 1, 2, yeah. Yes, we're on page 108. So let me get the page together. Y'all share out the link, invite your friends, okay? Even if you think they're not interested, invite them, because everybody really should know about astrotheology, right, y'all? This is such an esoteric topic, and people have heard of it, but they don't have a clue about it, right? They want to know more, and this is free, right? So this is free, so invite them, and maybe they'll come and learn, and their lives might get changed. Who knows? And by the way, this is not meant to change anybody's religion. We are learning together. Okay, so I'm not going to give you any type of sermon or try to get you to change. I'm just going to read, explain, because this is a difficult read, and I'll discuss it. And if anyone wants to call in and give your viewpoint, you're more than welcome to call in. You can even come in, you can even come into the link, especially if you follow the Gospels. If you follow the New Testament, you're more than welcome to come in and give your opinions and insight as we go through this. All right, page 108. First paragraph reads, the real origin and significance of the whole word London, Castor, as I have explained so often, that no original word could ever have consisted of more than one syllable. El, on, don, cast, aster. El means the sun, on means the being, don means the Lord, ka means the temple, as means the fire, tor means the hill, would gradually come to be absorbed into Lon, Don, Castor, Lon, Oncaster, Lancaster, and Lancaster, which is to this day the name of London, the capital city of the great county of Lancashire. All right, so that would be in London, right? And you know what, y'all, we read that already too yesterday. So we are, I remember where we are right now. We're at the bottom of page 109. That's where we are, at the bottom of page 109. Right where the highlight is. So I'm gonna skip that and I'm gonna start at the highlight. It reads, quote, a great revenue in the brazen chest kept at the temple of Castor, the guardian of entrusted property, end quote. Hence, the sense of the rebuke put into the mouth of the Christ of the gospel. Y'all. Against those who used to say, whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. The universal form of common swearing being edipol, that is per adim, poloxis, by Paul's church, quote, but whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. That is, he makes a draft upon the bank and ought to have effects there to honor it. I remember reading this when I was in Christianity. Yeah. Okay, next paragraph. The twins themselves, those twins are Gemini, y'all remember? Both Castor and Pole are each of them names of but one and the self-same deity, the sun, that's the sun, S-U-N. And from their representation as two brothers originated the fable of the union of the divine and human nature in the person of Christ. Y'all see that? So in other words, Christ is Gemini, his divine nature and his human nature. Pole, that's P-O-L-L, being the divine Castor, the human part of the constellation. All right, so Pole is the divine part of the constellation, and Castor is the human part of the constellation. Let's continue. They are uterine brothers only, that is, brothers by the same mother. Pole, P-O-L, the son, S-O-N, of Jupiter and Leda. Castor, the son of Leda, by her proper husband, the Joseph of the gospel. Okay, where is he going with this? So whenever you hear an author start to name siblings or family members, it's usually going to be something significant. All right, it's usually drawing you to realize something significant. So let's see if that holds out. Next paragraph. Hence, the dean and chapter of Paul's, that's P-A-U-L, or Paul's, P-O-L-S, cathedral. All right, so now he's talking about a cathedral for Paul. Who is Paul? Will always be sticklers for the divinity of the Christ. Okay, so it makes a problem. Remember in yesterday's video, Paul is said to be an old man, sickly, right? He didn't look so good. But Paul is buff, right? So the statue is buff. So how is this buff statue gonna be Paul, who's a bald head, weak looking guy, sick looking guy? For those of you who remember. Okay, so now let's continue. Hence, the dean and chapter of Paul's cathedral will always be sticklers for the divinity of Christ, while Arian, while Aran or Alrain rather informs us that Alexander the Great sacrificed to Castor and Pollux, and the day consecrated to Hercules, considering Hercules and Castor and Pole as the same deity. All right, so Hercules is Castor and Pole. All right, keep that in mind because we don't know when it's going to be required for us to remember it. Okay, so make a mental note. And that he was perfectly orthodox in so doing. Our Pole's cathedral is to this day a proof. All right, so now he just gave us evidence, right? What kind of evidence? A cathedral. So this is going to be physical evidence, right? To make his point. Physical evidence. All right, for if you will go, let me repeat that. For if you will but go into St. Paul's, that is, into St. Paul's churchyard, and stand with your face westward on the northern side, and you shall see, and you shall have the sign of the Bible and crown of Raivenstein's shop, the shop for the sale of books of Christian knowledge, in no other shape than that of the most perfect orthodoxy on your right, and immediately on the point of the pediment over the entrance of the edifice stands the statue of Hercules. Now, why is Hercules in the Christian cathedral, y'all? With well-known characteristics, club. So why would the Apostle Paul carry a club? Right? He would not, right? And the skin of the Cleonian lion. Okay, so y'all remember we went through this, I think during the first chapter, maybe the Star of Bethlehem. We talked about the lion skin and how Hercules had the lion skin. So here we're seeing it, right? So this could not be Paul. Paul would not have a club in his hand, right? Paul would not have a club. And remember also the other statue had a sword, if I remember correctly. But anyway, that was also supposed to be Paul, but it was the deity, right? And the author proved that as we read through it. All right, so let's continue. I should only like to learn how a man could need better information as to whom the house belongs than that he would infer from reading the master's name upon the door. Well, that's a good point, right? The man has his name upon the door. Okay. Or how could a worshiper of Hercules better know the temple of Hercules than by seeing Hercules himself in full possession of it? Well, that's also a good point, right? That's also a really, really good point. You see Hercules there. If the cathedral is Hercules' house, you would expect to see Hercules, okay? Or you would expect to see Paul if it was Paul's house. So the question is, why don't we see Paul, right? That's the author's point, I think. All right, the author's point is because we see Hercules, the cathedral, this Christian cathedral has a statue of Hercules, therefore it's Hercules' house. Okay, and this is astronomical, right? We talked about the constellations involved. If you missed that, you must watch the previous videos because you absolutely must have this knowledge. Whether you agree with it or not, you at least have it, and you can do your analysis and think and talk and discuss it and make logical, educated decisions for yourself and your family. Next paragraph. Next paragraph. Let's get to it, y'all. All right. But pass through the edifice from the north, go out at the southern entrance, and on the pediment over that entrance, you shall see the self-same Hercules under the Greek name of Andrew, which never could have been the name of a Jew. Y'all ever stop to think about that? Andrew could never be the name of a Jew. Good point. Signifying the strong man. So Andrew signifies the strong man holding a saltire cross. That is a cross in the shape of an X, a goniometer, or double pair of compasses. Why would they need compasses, y'all? Why would a Christian need compasses? Okay. Exhibiting the precise angle which the sun, S-U-N, made at its two crossings of the equator. Now, that makes sense. That makes sense. I have to agree with him. At the time when this beautiful form of sun, S-U-N, worship was first instituted. Okay, so y'all heard it. That's what that cross that looks like the X is for. It's called a goniometer, right? It's a double pair of compasses, okay? And it is meant to show the precise angle with which the sun made at his two crossings of the equator. All right, well, that's convincing for me. Maybe not for you, but I can get down with that more than I can that the statue of Hercules is really the Apostle Paul. Okay, and Andrew is definitely not a Hebrew name. Let's continue to the next paragraph. That angle being now 23 degrees and 28 minutes compared to what it was when observed by Ptolemy, is shown to be gradually decreasing at the rate of 1 minute in 100 years, so that in 140,000 years, it would be shut up entirely. That ecliptic will coincide with the equator. I think he's saying that the ecliptic would be on the same line as the equator, right? So it would just look like one instead of two, right? The one would cover the other line. And there will consequently be an equal length of day and night over all the earth and all year round, constituting the reign of righteousness, or a physical millennium, which our Christian blunderers have so absurdly anticipated in a moral sense. Y'all get that? So this is saying that the 1,000-year reign of Christ is nothing but the sun shining, right, over the whole earth. Okay, not a rule by the Christ figure. Okay, but it's completely celestial. Let's read it again. So that in 140,000 years, 140,000 years, that sounds like 144,000. Not that it is, but that's what just came to my mind. So that in 140,000 years, it will shut up entirely. The ecliptic will coincide with the equator. All right, ecliptic, equator, it sounds like one's going to be on top of the other, or they're going to, right, come together, and it's just going to look like just one line instead of two. And there will consequently be an equal length of day, wow, y'all, sorry. And there will consequently be an equal length of day and night over all the earth. So in 140,000 years, starting from the starting point that the author pointed out, 140,000 years later, the ecliptic and the equator are going to be on the same line, and there's going to be an equal number of daylight hours and nighttime hours. That's what he's saying, okay? And all year round, constituting the reign of righteousness, right? Equal number of daylight hours, equal number of nighttime hours, equal righteousness, okay? Equal righteousness. Hence, we see in Egypt the scales that are equally balanced, in contradistinction to with the US, where the scales are unbalanced, right? No justice, okay? Don't even expect it because they don't even have that concept in mind. That's what they're telling you. All right, let me find my place. Okay. Okay, so here we are. It continues. And all the year round, constituting the reign of righteousness, or a physical millennium. That's a physical 1,000 years of equal day and equal night, which our Christian blunderers have so absurdly anticipated in a moral sense. In other words, 1,000-year reign, everybody's going to be great, right? And then after the 1,000-year reign, the devil's going to come back and he's going to fool some people, trick some people into following him, and then they're going to get killed. And then after that, the deity's kingdom will be forever, right? And some people even believe that Jerusalem is going to come down from the sky on earth, so on and so forth. But according to the author, with what he knows about his experience being in the secret societies, this is all celestial and it has no moral meaning at all. None whatsoever. All right, now let's continue. And St. Andrew, you will observe, stands with his great goniometer, or measure. Now this is Andrew. Andrew has a goniometer, or measure of the sun's angle upon the equator behind his back, in significant indication that what is to be seen is a crucified man. But what is to be understood is in the background. Y'all got that? Let me read that one more again. And St. Andrew, you will observe, pay attention, y'all, stands with his great goniometer, or measure of the sun's angle upon the equator behind his back. Insignificant, see, not a small matter, big matter, insignificant indication, see, this is telling you a message, insignificant indication that what is to be seen is a crucified man. But what is to be understood is in the background. So in other words, you're supposed to see a crucified man, but you're supposed to understand what is in the background. All right, so now let's see what this author is going to bring to our attention. Next paragraph. But it is not in one. It is not within the compass of very many discourses that I can hope to compress the merit of this great cumulative argument. Y'all see that? It's a cumulative argument. You have to remember. You have to go back and watch all of these videos again. But don't take notes while you're watching right now. Just listen. Just listen. Whatever you missed, go back and watch the video. But y'all go back from video number 1, the first one, all the way through each and every last one of these videos, because the author just gave you a big clue. The knowledge is cumulative, right? It's not about how fast you can get through this, but it's about how much you can understand. And based upon your understanding, make connections and retain. All right. So you know, we need to say thanks because he just gave us a big thing. All right. Cumulative argument. This irrefutable and unanswerable demonstration. Okay, so he's saying what he demonstrated, past and coming up, cannot be challenged. There's nothing that anybody can say about it. All right. He said this irrefutable and unanswerable demonstration of the utterly fabulous character of everything that hath ever borne the name of religion among men. So he's making some big statements and claims, right? So let's see if he can let's see if he can back it up. Let's see if he can back it up. All right. So let's think critically, ask questions, don't trust a thing. Let's make him prove it. And sure, there can be no better way of exposing falsehood than by setting it side by side with truth. Well, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And bidding you with, all right, so let's see what he's going to say. Bidding you with the eyes of your own reason to look on this picture and on this method I have pursued in innumerable illustrations, which my regular hearers remember with full conviction. This in 1,000 illustrations yet to come, I shall continue to pursue. All right. Well, let's see if he can do it. End of the discourse on St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, St. Paul's Cathedral, surely those monuments or statues, it appears to me to be those Greek deities that he mentioned, right? And they have reference to the constellations. Why? Because the Apostle Paul, as he pointed out, was described as being old, kind of an old man, and his face wasn't consistent. He had a bald head and sickly and all of that. So it did match up with those statues, and then all of the other evidence that was just so clear you couldn't deny it, right? Even direct statements. All right, so let me go and check the comments, see if anybody made any comments. All right, so y'all have any comments y'all want to make? Go ahead and let me check. So I see, so was this confusing? Can you all put this in the chat? Let me know if this was confusing for you all to understand, so that I can learn, how to present that type of text that we just went through. Hey, y'all, now we're getting to the unjust judge. Now, I want to get to this part. I want to see what he has to say about the unjust judge. All right. The unjust judge. This is coming from Luke chapter 18, verse 1. I'm going to read it. Luke chapter 18, verse 1, the unjust judge. Quote, "And he spoke a parable unto them to this end, that men ought to always pray and not to be faint, saying, there was in a city a judge, which feared not, capital G-O-D, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while. But afterward he said within himself, though I fear not, capital G-O-D, nor regard any man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me." All right, I used to like this verse when I was in Christianity. That was one of my favorite stories about that. All right, so now let's continue, y'all. That is again from Luke chapter 18, verse 1. Now remember, we're reading this, we're going to hold the author to it. He's got to make his case. He made some pretty strong, damning claims, right? So let's hold him to it. Remember, cumulative knowledge. We have to remember his arguments, okay? That means that if we're not understanding something, it's probably because we forgot something, okay? So let's continue. Well, sirs, this gospel, it is an exhibition of the divine character as purporting to be set forth by Christ himself. It is the parable of the unjust judge, and it is delivered to us under the solemn command of Christ. Quote, hear what the unjust judge saith, end quote. At the same time, let me make sure I'm on the right page, y'all. Hold on, let me make sure. Okay, all right. So we are here at this bottom paragraph. All right. At the same time, it must be borne in remembrance that this parable is but one of a pair. So this parable is one of two, according to the author. There is a fellow to it. There is a fellow to it to be placed side by side with this parable in the 16th chapter of, let me turn to that. All right. In the 16th chapter of this gospel. All right. So in the 16th chapter of Luke, in the 16th chapter of this gospel. Yes, in the 16th chapter of Luke. All right. That's what he's talking about, which bears the title of the parable of the unjust steward. Y'all see that? So the unjust judge is paired with the parable of the unjust steward, okay? In the two together, we have a harmonious exhibition of what, on gospel principles, the character of the capital G-O-D is supposed to be. Y'all got that? In the two together, we have an harmonious exhibition of what, on gospel principles, the character of the capital G-O-D is supposed to be. What is he telling us? He's telling us that in these two parables, when you look at them through the lens of the gospels, right? The principles set forth in the gospels, it's going to tell you something about the character of the deity of the gospels, okay? That would be the Christ figure, right? The Father and the Son. Let's continue. Which is that of an unjust judge. That's a heavy claim. So the author just made the claim that the Father and the Christ is an unjust judge. Okay, he's got to prove it. And what the character of a Christian is supposed to be, which is that of an unjust steward. Y'all got that? A pretty brace of game to be dished up to, let me repeat that, a pretty brace of game to be dished up to the relish of our moral appetite. You know, one of the things I do like about this author, he does draw your attention to all of the moral issues in the Gospels. In my classes, in the Saturday 9 a.m. class, Saturday 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, everybody's welcome to come observe some free classes. But I often bring up this whole morality issue, replacing the Most High's commandments. But I do appreciate the author bringing this up, okay? But that's not his argument, but he does acknowledge that they go overboard in the Gospels with this moral stuff, right? And it really has no place. So let's continue. The unjust steward robbed his master, and the capital L-O-R-D commended the unjust steward. Let me repeat that. The unjust steward robbed his master, And the capital Lord commended the unjust steward because he had done it wisely. In other words, he was a smooth criminal. The unjust steward was a smooth criminal. And because he was so smooth, the capital Lord commended him. All right. How many of y'all ever thought about it like that? Wrap your head around that. Next sentence. And the unjust judge gave sentence without hearing cause. Y'all hear that? The unjust judge gave sentence without hearing cause. Quote, and hanged the guiltless rather than eat his mutton cold. Wow. I think that's clear. I don't need to say anything about that. Okay, saying, quote, I care neither for capital G-O-D or man, end quote. And another quote. And the capital L-O-R-D said, hear what the unjust judge saith, end quote. All right. So in other words, he's sticking this one to the Christ figure, saying, this is what your Christ figure said, right? That's what he's saying. Let's continue. And so I, for capital G-O-D's sake, for truth and virtue's sake, quote, hear what the unjust judge saith, end quote, and wonder no more at the state of morals in a Christian country. Wow. Y'all understand what the author just said? Y'all understand what he just said? He's saying that the Christ figure rewarded the unjust steward for robbing his master, right? And then what did he say about the unjust judge? Right? Same situation. Okay, now this is all morality stuff. So he's condemning the Christian nations for being immoral because their deity, their Christ figure, the Father and the Trinity are also immoral. Therefore, they are immoral. He's making some heavy claims, real heavy claims. So let's continue. Let's continue to see what he has to say, how he's going to back this up, right? Well, actually, he doesn't need to back up the immorality of the Christian nations, right? That should be known by everybody by now. All right, now let's continue. Let me see where we're at here. Okay, so we're here. We're going to pick back up there, okay? All right. And no wonder, no more at the state of morals in a Christian country, when these are the examples and exhibitions of moral perfection which Christianity itself has consecrated. In other words, it's saying that the Christ figure was immoral. He was a thief, and he promoted and commended theft, right, with the unjust, steward, and the same thing with the judge, who would rather put somebody to death than have to hear a case when he's ready to eat because he don't want his food to get cold. So no respect for justice, right? No respect for justice. So the author is saying, well, hey, that's the way your power is. That's why y'all the way y'all are in these Christian countries, not only with war and fighting and stealing, right, and slavery, right, legal ease. Okay, the you look at this, the relationships between men and women, the sexual thing, and all of these things. The author is putting it square on the Christ figure's shoulder as being responsible because he's saying that's the way he was. Not me. I'm interpreting what the author is saying. For those who are in the higher ranks of life, our aristocrats, lords, and hereditary masters, the most godlike example proposed to their observance is to teach them to be indifferent to the petitions of the people. In other words, they're taught to not care about people suffering, to act from no consideration but of their own conveniences, to be selfish and self-centered, egotistical, greedy, right? In other words, they don't feel anything, no empathy. And if ever they do attend to a petition, never to think of that right or the reason of it, but only to get rid of the brother. So in other words, they just doing it to get rid of you, right? Because you getting on their last nerve, bugging them, like that woman did with the judge. Okay, let me just go ahead and do this to get her out of here because she's gonna drive me nuts. That's what he's saying. Not in the interest of justice. It's all about me, what I have, right? Get the money, get the privilege, okay? Get the time, the peace of mind, get to lunch so I can eat, right? Lock him up so I can go eat, okay? Go ahead, do whatever she wants so she leave me alone, but it's not about justice, right? Searching for justice, only selfishness. All right, now let's continue. Okay, and if ever they do attend a petition, never to think of the right or the reason of it, but only to get rid of the bother. For those who are in inferior and dependent stations or situations, the proposed example is that they should rob their employers. Y'all hear that? You in a jam like that unjust steward, rob your employer, but be smooth about it. Be smooth so that the Christ figure will commend you. That's what what the author is saying. Be smooth about it. Rob them, but be smooth about it. Okay? So now let's continue. All right. That they should rob their employers and cheat and swindle so dexterously that if they should ultimately be found out, their employers themselves should own they did it cleverly. So this would be like a Bernie Madoff type of situation, right? A real crafty Ponzi scheme. For example, some people say Bitcoin or NFT are elaborate scams. Okay, so that might be an example depending on how you see that. But definitely like Bernie Madoff, that would be an elaborate case that would fit what the author is saying. Also Enron, right? And also all of these, remember back in the day, they used to do those pyramid schemes. Remember those? So clever scams. You scam them cleverly and the deity will commend you, give you favor. That's what the judge is saying. What the author is saying. And this is gospel morality, the finest system of morals that was ever delivered to man, the purest, the most sublime. The quote, where will you find anything equal to the morals of the gospel? End quote. Calculated to make us just exactly what we are, a holy nation, a peculiar people, zealous of good works. And as far as this sort of morality has influence in society, society must necessarily and eternally consist of a set of lordly and oppressive tyrants, having no sympathies with the people and no motive of action but their own convenience. In other words, their only motive is to satisfy their own convenience. In the higher ranks, and a set of cunning rogues, Isaacs, cheats, liars, and slaves in the lower. Y'all see that? All right. Now, one thing I can also agree with him on is that in these Christian societies, right, you do see a lot in the government or in the administration, right, amongst their so-called government officials or corporate officials, crooks. All of them are crooks, and they try to make themselves look holier than thou, right? Or they try to find a moral or biblical reason to justify their crimes, okay? Or to justify harming the people. They try to make it look like it's something that's good for you, right? Isn't that what we see in the West? How long have we been going? Only, okay, 1 hour. So we'll wrap up shortly. We will wrap up shortly, okay, y'all? So let's continue. I'm kind of enjoying this. This is a real easy read compared to other lessons, y'all, because he's not describing constellations. Okay, he's not describing constellations, so this is easy, more easy. Okay, and it's kind of fun. It's his opinion, but we can analyze his opinion and see if what we think about it and see if it makes us think of things in a different way. But it's just his opinion, okay? It's just his opinion. All right, let's continue. We are here. We are here. Look then upon this picture, and on this I bring before you the master villain this evening, and shall serve you upon the man on some other occasion. You have heard and have, I guess, often read for yourselves the parable of the unjust judge. The question is such an exhibition of character or such a moral lesson, whatever the morality of it be, to come in at one ear and go out at the other, and so no harm done? Or shall we be rational? Shall words have meaning to them? And shall we look at the picture which our priests have set before us in its own ugly face? By your patience I will do so, and shall lead your convictions first to its crucial or to its critical, second to its moral, and lastly to its political aspect. So the author is saying, when you start talking like this, when you write something like this, it's going to have an effect. You write something that's immoral and people read that, it's going to have an effect on the person who reads it. Forget about explaining the story or explaining it away, right, through doctrine, which is what each religion does. Okay, the author is saying it has an effect on people's psyche. Use your mind. That's what I'm getting. Are y'all reading it in a different way? Let me check to see if we have anything. Okay, so give me 1 second. All right, so let's see. Him and Pell writes, not confusing, very interesting. We know our forefathers followed Torah and mixed with Greek deities. It's showing relation between the Greek deities and the character in the new covenant. Excellent comment. Excellent comment. Very good. Excellent. And thank you also for that feedback. Much appreciated. Much appreciated for the feedback. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay, so let me go back to our document and continue. First, of the critical point of the critical view. First, of the critical view on it. But hold of criticism. I would recommend all good Christians to be innocent, for the faculty of criticism is fatal to Christianity. Y'all hear that? He's saying the faculty of analytical thinking is fatal to Christianity, for the faculty of criticism is fatal to Christianity. All right, not criticism like you talking bad, but criticism in terms of you're going to analyze, right? Analytical thinking, questioning, okay, questioning. The gospel will bear anything else but it will not bear to be criticized. Okay? The moment you begin to criticize, it's a farewell to faith. There's no knowing where it will lead you to. For only see now what helter-skelter comes on it, the moment you take up the bosom of criticism. Quote, and he spake a parable to them, end quote. Avast, cries criticism. Who spake to whom? Where? When? How? And what the devil is a parable? Quote, a parable to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, end quote. And what's the use of always praying? And what's to make men faint when they leave off praying? All right, and straightforward enough, you see. While you sit in the booby hutch at church or chapel and never dream of asking yourself or anybody else what it means, but discovering to the startled attention of the critical mind the frightful truth that a parable to such an end as that men ought always to pray and not to faint could by no possibility have been delivered either by capital God or men before that end was an end, which priestcraft had to serve. And that notion of everlasting praying was in full vogue among, so let me turn the page, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right. So praying was in full vogue among men, which determines the period of the darkest day of the Dark Ages and of the full swing of popish superstition of monks and hermits, and Canobites and friars, end quote. Quote, black friars and gray and all their trumpery, end quote. I don't know what that is, so y'all gonna have to look up what trumpery is, okay? I got my hands full right now. Neither could it have been delivered or devised before the times of the general prevalence of that most wicked notion of election and reprobation. All right. Neither could it have been delivered or devised before the times of the general prevalence of that most wicked notion of election and reprobation. Boy, that sounds real Christian, don't it? Reprobate mind, reprobate mind. Y'all heard people say that before? Since its whole argument is the argument of fortiori, that capital God would avenge his own elect. All right. And I hear Hebrew Israelites always talking like this, right? Capital God is going to avenge his elect. And that without any consideration of the justice of their cause, but merely because they were his elect. So in other words, justice has nothing to do with it. These are my elect, so therefore I'm going to get you. As our judges of the present day, whose characters are bound by these evangelical examples, could convict an infidel, not because they had any evidence or guilt against him, not because they had any argument to show that he wasn't a good-hearted man, as that has ever breathed, but merely because he was an infidel. Y'all got that? He's saying that these Christian judges, due to their value system coming out of Christianity, which came from the Christ figure, they don't have any concept or desire to deliver justice, right? They're gonna get you, right? They're gonna get you regardless. Okay, isn't that what we see, right? In the administrative state, isn't that what we see happening in the venues that are so-called courts? Isn't that what we see? You go in there and you're 99.99% sure to lose. No interest in law. In fact, you can't even. Well, everybody know if you're watching this video, you should know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so let's continue. All right. So the infidel lamb that should be accused of making the stream run backward would be sure to be found guilty where the Christian wolf did try him. O Christian justice, how doest thou shine forth? When the proprietor of the other shop gives verdict against ours, when the sworn knave, y'all, if y'all don't know what knave means, look it up. We went over it many, many times. When the sworn knave that has the letting of the booby hitches in his own chapel finds the rotunda guilty. Wow. 'Tis Christian justice. So hypocrisy, right? A further indication of time is betrayed to us in that awkwardly dropped stitch, quote, nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find upon the earth, end quote. In admission as clear as day, that whoever the Son of Man was, he was not then upon earth. That's funny. And that consequently, the speaker in the text could not be he. Y'all got that? Did y'all get that? If the Son of Man is not on earth, that means that the speaker in the text is also not the Son of Man. So who's doing the talking? Definitely not the Son of Man. Y'all got that because he's not on earth. If you got that. All right. So that's funny. Let's continue. Then who the devil was or is the Son of Man? None of your clergy in church or chapel can tell you. I can. The author says he can tell you. They don't know him. I do. I have seen him myself. I know him very well and all his family. And I can show him you. Wow, this author is making some incredible claims and accusations, isn't he? So let's read this paragraph, the next paragraph, and see what else we're going to get. And in doing this, in doing what? He says here, I can show him you. Okay, he can show him you. Let's see it. And in doing this, I haven't to beseech you to see with the eye of faith. In other words, I don't have to tell you to imagine, to believe, to have faith. That's what he's saying. And in doing this and showing you, I haven't or I don't have to tell you to see with the eye of faith, to look to the things which are invisible. He's saying he's not going to do that. Okay, so he's going to show you something you can see. Well, let's see what he says. I have no occasion to draw upon your credulity and to entreat you to believe me as my dear hearers, least of all to I can't make out what this word is. I'm going to skip it because I can't make it out. Okay, least of all to blank you out of the exercise of your reason. Okay, so he's saying he's not going to try to trick you out of your reason. Okay, he's not going to try to trick you, make you believe something that's not there. That's what he's saying. With that villainous denunciation, quote, he that believeth not shall be damned. Okay, so he's all right. So he's doing a comparison. He's saying that this quote is saying, if you don't believe, you don't have faith, you're damned. The author is saying, I'm not going to do you like that, right? I'm going to ask you to use your reason. I'm not going to threaten you and try to scare you. The implication is that this Bible quote, he that believeth not shall be damned, that's meant to scare you. That's a threat, all right? That's meant to scare you. What happens when you scare people, right? Or what's one of the purposes of scaring somebody? So they stop thinking, right? They get in reaction mode. The fear takes over. Decision-making gets bad. All right, now let's continue reading. Only be men. So the author is telling you, only be a man. That's all he's saying. I'm going to show you, but just be a man. You don't have to believe. Be a man. Only be men and exercise your rational faculties as men. Give me no credit at all. Think that I am deceiving you as long as you can think so. All right, that's critical thinking, right? He's saying, don't trust me. Think that I'm tricking you. You think that as long as you can do so. Why does he say as long as you can do so? Because he believes he's going to make a case that's so strong that while you distrust him in the beginning, as you listen to his arguments, you will see that it's perfectly sound, and then he'll gain your trust based upon your analytical thinking mind, not because of a threat and not because you're supposed to believe. Okay? So now let's continue. Give me no credit at all. Think that I am deceiving you as long as you can think so. Withhold your conviction to the last struggle that with reason it can be withheld, and it shall be mine at last by right of conquest. Y'all see that? He's saying that his evidence is so convincing, so overwhelming, that once you see it all, you have no other choice as a rational, intelligent, reasonable man, but to come to the same conclusion that he came to. That is what he's saying to us, all right? So let me take a look, y'all. So the video is now about 1 hour and 18 minutes. I'm trying to see if we should do one more paragraph. Y'all want to do another paragraph? If you want to do another paragraph, put a 1 in the chat. Otherwise, let's see, comments. All right. Let's see. So him and Pale says, trumpery, attractive articles of little value or use, and trinkets, and knickknacks. Hey, thanks a lot, him and Pale. Much appreciated. Trumpery, attractive articles of little value or use, trinkets and knickknacks. All right. So what y'all want to do? Y'all want to stop here? We stopped on page 116 if we stop right now. No, that's wrong. We stopped on page 117. We stopped on page 100. So if y'all put a 1 in the chat, we'll keep going. If I don't see a 1, we'll stop. All right. So this was fun. It was a nice break for me to not have to do any heavy duty thinking to try to figure out what the author was writing. But he put a lot of claims out, so he's got a lot of proving to do. Okay, but this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun as we go through these additional chapters. So I want to invite everybody to come to our live online class every Saturday this Saturday and every Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going to learn a lot. I guarantee you. You're going to learn a lot. It's worth your time. Saturday, 9 a.m. You're going to walk out of there with a tremendous amount more than what you walked in with. And it's stuff you can use immediately in your life. All right. So 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link is in the description area of this video. Also, subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, Reclaim Your Heritage. That's going to start you on your pathway to returning to the Most High. The culture is in the language. Okay, it's 113 video lessons. You can test drive it for $1, and then after that, it's only $10 a month. So it's basically free. But don't let that low price fool you. Don't let that smooth taste fool you. The market value of that class is about $10,000. Okay, compare it to what you would have to pay if you went to a Hebrew school, a Hebrew university, or a synagogue, and they're going to teach you biblical Hebrew, but most likely maybe modern Hebrew. That's not even your stuff. Our stuff is Ibaryath. Okay, y'all. So now y'all let me know. Do y'all want to continue or do y'all want to stop? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up and we're going to stop. But support what we do. Our PayPal is in the description area. Now you don't have to give a donation. You can buy our books. But if you buy our books, we ask that you buy them on our website, zionlawschool.org, because if you buy them on Amazon and places like that, they take so much money, it's really not even worth having the books there. Okay, that's how bad it is. So buy all books, all of our publications, buy them on zionlawschool.org, okay? And then we'll ship it to you through Amazon. All right, we'll ship it to you through Amazon. Okay, but don't buy it on Amazon. All right. So if there's nothing else, if there's no comments, we're going to wrap it up. All right. If there are no comments or questions, we are going to wrap it up. So y'all remind me tomorrow, in case I forget, that we start on page 117. All right. And remember, the topic here is Christian morality is terrible. And they get, according to the author, not me, according to the author, Christian judges are terrible. They're not interested in justice because according to the author, the Christ figure was not interested in justice. All right. And he was also commending robbers, right? The unjust steward who robbed his master, and the unjust judge who would just he'd lock you up, kill you, just because he didn't want to be inconvenienced. Okay, so the Christ figure's bad morality is the cause, right, of all of the Christians' bad morality, from their violence, from their stealing, manipulation. Okay, all of the deceptive things that they do, all of the crazy practices, y'all know what I'm talking. Author is saying that comes from the Christ figure and the deity, right? So that would be the Father and the Son, S-O-N. That's his major point of this chapter. This is the chapter of the unjust judge. Now remember, in this chapter, we're dealing with Luke chapter 18, verse 1, y'all. All right, now remember, the unjust judge and the unjust steward are Gemini. Remember? Gemini. I'm thinking this is going to come back up, but we will see. We will see tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow at, let me get the time, y'all. Tomorrow we will be back at 10 p.m. Okay, Tuesday, 10 p.m. So here's our schedule. Mondays, 9 p.m. Tuesday, 10 p.m. Wednesday, 10 p.m. Thursday, 10 p.m. Friday, 9 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. And then Sunday, 2 p.m. So that's the schedule for our astrotheology class, for our astrotheology videos. Okay, again, the schedule for astrotheology videos: Monday 9 p.m., Tuesday 10 p.m., Wednesday 10 p.m., Thursday 10 p.m., Friday 9 p.m., Saturday 8 p.m., Sunday 2 p.m. Schedule. And remember, scholars, if you want to come in to the live stream, you can. We only ask that you be respectful and don't evangelize, right? Keep the conversation on topic with what we're dealing with in the book. Be respectful to others who have different views than your own. And if there's anybody who's Hebrew Israelite, a New Testament or Christian, if you want to come into the live stream, you're more than welcome to do it, because we'd like to have your view on the matter, okay? And also you can put your views in the chat. But definitely, you're definitely welcome, if you're a New Testament person, to come in and give your opinion, because this is all about us learning. We're not trying to convert anybody or make you change your religion or to make you believe anything. We're trying to educate our people so that our people can make an intelligent, informed decision on their own, and so that we can move out of superstition, and just knowing nothing, and move into having knowledge about astrotheology, the sciences, philology, etymology, right? History, all of these different types of evidences, so we can begin to educate our people. And it's not just me, y'all. I would like for y'all to come into the live stream and talk. I don't think I know everything. I know I don't know everything. And I'm more than willing to open up the platform so that we can have a really, really great discussion, right? Differing opinions, differing views, all of that. So y'all bring your friends and come in, let's talk about it, right? And let's be dignified, scholarly as we do it. And I want to thank y'all for spending your evening with me. I'm Dr. Yasapa. I'm always humbled to know that somebody cares enough about the work that I'm doing to give me some of their time to hear this message. For me, this is so important for us as a people. I always say that we need to have a movement, right? We need to have a movement where we get this astrotheology content out to our people. You know, everybody knows the condition of our people is bad, but I don't want to keep preaching. Let me close out, y'all. If you can afford it, do remember to subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath. We put a lot of work into getting this streaming online course for you. This is going to help you return to the Most High. It's going to help you with your reading comprehension. It's going to help you to cipher. You can rip apart the scriptures. You can literally rip them apart and see what they mean. And you will not need a pastor. You will not need a rabbi. You won't need a Moshe. You're going to know more than they, because you're going to know how to study. You're going to know how to go into the etymology, deal with parts of speech, right? Deal with the root, the verbal system, right? You're going to learn how to deal with all of this stuff and be scientific with it. This is going to free you up. It's only $1 for 1 day trial, $10 a month subscription. This is the best money you can spend. So not only don't just subscribe for yourself, but subscribe for everybody that you know, right? It's $10 per month is basically free, but I guarantee you, you will agree that this is a $10,000 course. This is not biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew, all right? This is our stuff. So y'all do that for me. With that, I'm going to say thank you again, And I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks for your time. Have a great evening ahead. Shalawama.